The weight of light. There are moments in life when silence becomes deafening, when it's not the absence of sound, but the echo of everything that was lost. Amara sat on the floor of her small apartment, surrounded by boxes she had never unpacked. The air smelled faintly of rain and dust. A faint hum from the street below drifted through the window, but inside the world was quiet. Too quiet. On the table was an unopened envelope with the hospital's logo on it. It had been 3 weeks since the accident, but she hadn't gathered the courage to open it. Somewhere inside, she knew what it said. Your career as a physiotherapist is over. She pressed her palm against her right leg, the one that had never fully healed. The doctor said she would walk again, yes. But run, dance, work 12-hour shifts, lifting patients, moving swiftly between rooms? No, that part of her life had burned away with the crash. She whispered into the empty room. Who am I now? Amara had once been the kind of person who believed healing others was her calling. Her friends used to call her the fixer. She was the one who stayed after hours at the rehab center, cheering up patients who wanted to give up. She believed in miracles, until she needed one herself. The accident was ordinary and cruel. A red light missed by a tired driver, metal folding like paper, a scream swallowed by sirens. In one night, her world shifted from movement to stillness. For months, she had replayed it in her mind, the blur of headlights, the jolt, the cold hospital lights above her bed. She remembered the nurse who told her gently, "You're lucky to be alive." But Amara didn't feel lucky. She felt broken, trapped inside a body that no longer obeyed her. Every day, she stared at the mirror and whispered, "This can't be my life." And yet it was. She tried to distract herself. Therapy, audiobooks, scrolling through old photos. But there was no escaping the truth. Her purpose, the thing she built her identity around, was gone. Her hands still knew how to heal, but her spirit didn't. It was on one of those gray afternoons when she forced herself outside that she met him. An old man feeding pigeons at the park near her apartment. She sat down across from him, her cane resting beside her knee, her gaze lost in the drizzle. Without looking up, he said, "You walk like someone who's carrying the world." She blinked, caught off guard. "Excuse me?" He smiled faintly, eyes still on the pigeons. "You remind me of myself a long time ago. The way your shoulders fold inward, like you're afraid to take up space." "I had an accident," she said flatly. "So did I," he replied. "A lifetime ago. Lost my wife, my son, and nearly my mind. Thought I'd never heal. But here I am, feeding pigeons, annoying strangers. Life's funny that way," she studied him. His eyes were soft, but behind them was something ancient. The quiet strength of someone who had walked through fire and come out the other side. "What made you heal?" she asked, almost whispering. He chuckled. "Who says I'm healed? Healing isn't a destination. It's the walk you take while you're bleeding." His words struck her like a chord she didn't know existed. He turned toward her then and added, "Remember this, you don't start healing when the pain ends. You start healing when you stop running from it." When she looked up again, he was gone. That night, Amara couldn't sleep. The old man's words replayed in her mind. She stood before the mirror again, but this time she looked deeper, beyond the scar, beyond the limp. "What if I stopped fighting this?" she murmured. "What if healing isn't about going back, but going forward differently?" She took out an old journal she hadn't opened in years. On the first page, in her handwriting, were words she once told a patient. "Every setback is a seed for your rise. The soil is pain, but the bloom is purpose." She had written it for someone else. Now it felt like the universe had returned it to her. She began writing again, not about goals, but about feelings. The anger, the grief, the small victories like standing 5 minutes longer than yesterday. Every night she ended her entry with a single affirmation, "I am not broken. I am becoming." Weeks passed. Slowly, something began to shift. Her mornings no longer began with despair. but with small rituals: herbal tea, sunlight through the blinds, soft instrumental music. She started physical therapy again, not to return to her old life, but to see what her new one might look like. Her therapist, Jordan, noticed the change. "You're pushing yourself again," he said one afternoon, smiling. "I'm learning to listen to my body instead of punishing it," she replied. He nodded. "That's progress most people never reach." But it wasn't easy. Some days her leg ached so badly she wanted to scream. Some nights she broke down crying into the silence. Yet even through the tears, a small voice within whispered, "Keep going." She realized that healing wasn't about erasing pain. It was about learning to carry it with grace. One morning, Amara saw a notice board at her community center. "Volunteer needed. Adaptive art therapy for patients recovering from physical trauma." Her first instinct was to walk away, but something tugged at her heart. That same ache she used to feel when helping patients rediscover hope. The class was small, 5 people, each with visible or invisible scars. She sat among them, hesitant. The instructor, a soft-spoken woman named Celeste, noticed her limp and smiled warmly. "You're welcome here. You don't need to be an artist, just human." During the session, they painted emotions instead of images. Rage became streaks of red, hope shimmered in yellow, sorrow took shape in blue spirals. Amara's hands trembled as she painted, not from pain, but from release. Afterward, Celeste approached her. "You have a healer's energy," she said. Amara almost laughed. "I used to," Celeste shook her head. "You still do. It's just changing form." That night, Amara couldn't sleep again, not from pain, but from excitement. For the first time in months, she felt alive. She began volunteering every week. Slowly, the sessions became her therapy as much as anyone else's. She listened to others' stories: the veteran learning to live without his left arm, the teenager with burns who refused to look in mirrors, the woman who lost her husband to illness. Each one reflected a fragment of her own journey. She learned something profound. Everyone carries invisible scars. Healing was never about comparison. It was about compassion. During one session, a young man named Leo, who had lost movement in his hand, grew frustrated and threw his brush. "I can't even do this right," he shouted. Amara walked over, picked up the brush, and said softly, "Maybe art isn't about doing it right. Maybe it's about letting your soul speak through imperfection." He looked at her, tears welling. "How do you do it? How do you stay strong?" She smiled gently. "I don't. I just keep showing up, even when it hurts." That's strength. Months later, Celeste invited Amara to co-lead a session. "You have a gift," she insisted. "People listen to you because you've walked through what they fear." Amara hesitated. "I'm still healing." "That's exactly why they'll believe you." So she stood before the small group, hands trembling slightly, and said, "I used to think healing meant fixing what was broken. But now I know, healing means loving what's still whole." She looked around, eyes filled with tears, nods of understanding. Her voice grew steadier. "You are not your scars. You are the light that shines through them." That day, Amara felt something she hadn't felt in a long time: peace. Weeks later, as she cleaned her apartment, she found that unopened envelope again. The hospital's letter. For a moment, fear clawed at her chest, the memory of everything she lost. But this time, she opened it. It read simply, "Due to your injuries, you are not cleared for physical therapy work. We wish you the best in your future endeavors." She folded the letter and smiled softly. The words that once would have shattered her now felt like closure, not an ending, but a release. She whispered, "Thank you," and threw it into the recycling bin. Because she had already found her future endeavor, months turned into a year. The art therapy class had grown, and Amara was now leading it entirely. She used music, mindfulness, and painting to help others reconnect with their strength. She started a small social media page called The Bloom Within. She shared lessons she'd learned, You are allowed to rebuild your life from the ashes. Every storm uncovers the strength you forgot you had. You don't need to be whole to be holy. To her surprise, people began sharing their stories in response. Her words traveled farther than she ever imagined, reaching thousands, then tens of thousands. One evening, she received a message from a woman in another country. "I wanted to end my life tonight. Then I read your post. You saved me. Thank you for reminding me that pain can become purpose," Amara cried. Not from sadness, but gratitude. All the suffering, all the nights she cursed the darkness, they had led here to this. On the anniversary of her accident, Amara went back to the same park. The bench was still there, though the pigeons were gone. She sat, feeling the cool wind on her face, and whispered to the sky, "Thank you for breaking me open." A child ran past her laughing, and for a moment she felt a surge of pure joy. Simple, unfiltered, alive. She looked at her reflection in the pond nearby, same scar, same limp, but her eyes were different, brighter, softer. She whispered to herself, "The wound was never my ending. It was the door to my awakening." She smiled, stood with her cane, and walked forward, not perfectly, but powerfully. Years later, her studio became a haven for others, the sanctuary of becoming. On the walls were affirmations written by her students. "I am still here. My scars are stories of survival. Every day I rise. Even when I fall," she watched them paint, laugh, cry, and heal, and realized that she had become what she was always meant to be. Not a healer of bodies, but a healer of hearts. And whenever someone asked her how she found her way back, she would smile and say, "You don't wait for the light to return. You learn to carry it." Healing is not about returning to who you were. It's about embracing who you are becoming. Every fracture lets light in. Every pain is an invitation to rise. You are never truly broken. You are being reshaped by grace.